Hello, once again, everybody, and welcome to our next edition of The Comeback, where we talk sports, hope, and recovery during the pandemic. We've had the opportunity to talk with leaders in athletics and business throughout the state of Nevada, and today is no different. Thanks for joining me. I'm DJ Allen with the X's and O's of success, and we're so excited today to have the athletic director with the University of Nevada Wolfpack, Doug Knuth, as well as the CEO of the Reno and Sparks Chamber of Commerce, Ann Silver. Thanks for joining us, and so glad that you're here. How important is the sports industry in the growing Reno market?
It's incredibly important. We have so many people moving to Northern Nevada, and we get questions all the time about sports, whether it's where they can go to see sports or how their kids can get involved. And we're fortunate enough to have UNR just a few blocks away with 22,000 students and the phenomenal Wolfpack, whether it's basketball or soccer or baseball or football. People want to know about the Wolfpack. They want to get involved. The tickets are inexpensive. They can go and cheer their hearts out. And we also have the Reno Aces and 1868 soccer. And of course, we also love the fact that we have partners in the Las Vegas Raiders and the Golden Knights, and we arrange trips for chamber members to head down there and see games. So sports is an incredibly relevant aspect of this community.
So glad you mentioned, first off, the Reno market and the growth, and excited to talk to Doug about that and the opportunities that brings for the Wolfpack. But you also mentioned the Golden Knights and the Raiders, and we had Kerry Bubolz, the president of the Golden Knights, on one of our first episodes of the Comeback. Mark Bedane, the president of the Raiders, and they both talked about how important the entire state was. You know, we want to thank our sponsors. First off, we mentioned the Las Vegas Raiders, as well as Fargo, United Healthcare, and McCarthy Building Companies. Without them, this episode and this series is not possible. So thank you very much. Now, Doug, you've worked in college athletics for 20 years, now entering your 8th season as the AD of the Wolfpack. It's a challenging job, an AD at the Division I level, when it's business as usual. But we all know in every business, it's not business as usual. How do you describe the focus of your job today?
Wow, that's a really good question. The focus, as you asked about, has been really difficult, right? Because there isn't, a date that you're pointing to. There isn't a kickoff of the season that we know for certain at this point. So it's all up in the air, and there's a lot of moving parts, and so most of our time now is communicating. Most of our time in leadership position is communicating, whether it's communicating with people we work with our coaches and our staff, or it's communicating with other athletic directors around the country, or communicating with conference commissioners, or even the NCAA. It's just talking and trying to figure out and trying to see around the corner like a lot of business leaders do. I mean, that's the essence sometimes of leadership is being in a position where you can see around the corner, you can see what's coming in the future. And that's sort of our job right now, is to try to figure out, what does the month of September look like, or October, November football season, or fall sports season? What does that look like for us?
I want to pull back and think a little bigger picture now with this question. How have you grown as a leader since you first got to Reno 8 years ago?
Well, I have a lot of gray hair now. That's the first thing. That's the thing about Zooms, is like you see yourself in the picture all the time, and I don't realize how much gray hair I had when I first moved to Reno a little over 7 years ago. So, I mean, a lot of things have changed. I mean, that's part of being a leader and being in that position where you have to realize that even in the position where people look to for information, they look to you for answers, you have to realize as a leader that you don't always have all the answers. So you're constantly learning, constantly growing, constantly leaning on other people. And for me, I'm an avid reader. I read an hour or so a day, and I read lots of industry, different professions, and try to learn and grow from other people. But then I also spend time reaching out to my colleagues, reaching out to people in my profession to learn and grow and see what they do maybe differently, what they do better than we do here at Nevada, and try to find ways to learn and grow through that too. So I realize more and more every single day that my job as the quote unquote leader is really about serving everyone else in my department, whether it's our student athletes, our coaches, our administrative staff, our university administration, our university president. You know, my job is about providing resources and support for them. My job is making this university look great. My job is sort of connecting with our community through sports. The second thing is, which I think I had a sense of this coming into this job, is as leaders, we're often called upon to make really hard decisions with very limited information. So that's become a big thing for me, is to figure that out in my evolving leadership, is how do you trust yourself? How do you trust people around you to make smart decisions? And then the last thing I'll tell you, just that I work on every single day, and I'm not perfect at it. Many of us aren't, is communication. Right, I've said that earlier in this conversation, is here at the University of Nevada, we are separate. I mean, our offices and our university has been closed for months, and most of us are working remotely from home or wherever. And so right now, communication is a premium. We have to communicate. We have to stay in touch, and it's not always having like this, you know, groundbreaking information to share, this earth-shattering news to share. It's not always that. A lot of times it's just, how are you doing?
Being a great leader starts with being a great teammate. And I think that's one thing that so many times we miss. And your words just really remind us of that. And let's talk about sports now, the role of sports. What role does sports play in a community, Doug?
Well, the big thing for me is it's a unifier. I mean, it's a rallying force. There's energy and spirit behind it that it's hard to explain sometimes to people that don't follow sports, that aren't in the sports world, right? They're not sports junkies like some of us, but there is something really unique about what I call it, the power of positive sports, right? Because we do have negative sports too, and that's a distraction from all the good things that we do in the sports world. But the power of positive sports pulls us together. It creates a spirit, and we talk about it like in the college world about school spirit, right? When your teams are winning, when your football team and basketball teams are winning, and I point to those because they're so visible. There's something different about them. When the volleyball team wins, it's great. When the swim team wins, it's great. But when football and basketball win, there's something different because there's so much visibility. There's so much media attention to those two sports. There's a school pride, right? Everyone knows what that feels like. It gives me goosebumps just to think of it. Like, everyone knows that school pride, that energy, that excitement. I understand very clearly, not everyone in Northern Nevada went to school here, went to the University of Nevada, right? But they live here and they work here and they're Wolfpack fans. And it's the coolest thing. That's sort of the smaller version. Now there's a larger version about sports and what sports matters to us. And you think about, like, the greatest example in my lifetime is 9/11, and frankly, coming out of 9/11, again, goosebumps right now. Major League Baseball did some of the more powerful things I'll ever see in sports, where the President of the United States throws out the first pitch, and the whole country's watching, and it was this unifying event where we had some horrible things happen that could have separated us and could have created division and could have been, but sports pulled us back together. And it seemed like the whole country was watching those baseball games. I felt like I was part of something bigger. Like, it mattered to be an American that week. Like, it mattered to be like, I wanted to go I was like, like sports, like it just pulled us together. Like, that kind of thing is so cool to me. And I love what I get to do every single day, and trying to rally and pull together our community here in Northern Nevada around proud.
So let's talk about the Wolfpack. And what role does Wolfpack athletics play in the Northern Nevada community?
Well, I think, to echo what Doug said, it is a unifier, and many of us did not go to UNR, but we find ourselves wearing the blue and silver colors. And on days when there are games, whether it's a football game or a basketball game or a baseball game, we've got our blue and silver on. You see T-shirts and sweatshirts all over town, and I think that's so important. It's community spirit. It is that unifying force in good times and bad. I remember because I was in New York on 9/11, and while it's a terrible subject, it is worthy of remembering the incredible spirit people felt to see that first pitch, to see the team standing with their hands over their hearts in a sense of great patriotism. I think you take that on a smaller scale and you see that in the Reno Sparks community up here. And regardless of where you graduated from, and I'm a Cornell grad, and I don't think I've ever had red on. Blue and silver are my colors now, and I don't know anybody who doesn't have some kind of Wolfpack insignia in their closet.
And when you think about the Reno Sparks market, I think it's fascinating for college athletics. What are the benefits the market offers to Nevada athletics, Doug?
Well, I think one of the neat things is we're such a welcoming market.
Right.
And I think Ann and her organization do an unbelievable job. I think our city council, I think our city leadership, and all obviously in Sparks and Reno, I think we all are very welcoming to bring people from the outside in, and they become part of our family. They become part of who we are immediately. And I think that's really important for people that are thinking of moving businesses here, because they move here with people, and you bring people with you a lot of times, and transplants, and people have to know that this is an incredible place to live and an incredible business community. And as you said a number of times, it's growing like crazy right now, and that's incredible for us.
You both talked earlier about the people who have gone to school somewhere else. And that's the thing, is when you're in a college town, when you're in a college market that's growing, people come in with different allegiances. So it's easy to assume from the outside everybody becomes a fan, but sometimes you have to work at it. So how do you recruit those new Wolfpack fans, even though when they come in, they might have different allegiances?
Well, it's one of my favorite things, honestly. Because I love to hear stories of people that went to Cal or went to USC or went to Oregon or whatever. Those are huge organizations, huge enterprises. And here at Wolfpack Athletics, again, it's smaller, it's more intimate, it's friendly, it's family oriented, sort of like our community. And frankly, if they want to wear their USC colors, that's fine. They come to a game as our guest, they'll come back because they just want to, keep coming to support the local team.
A tip: if an athletic director is inviting you to come to one of their games, don't wear different colors. That's just a tip for those who might get that opportunity. Okay, we know there are challenges, obviously, in all sports, particularly college athletics, as you're talking about. But let's talk about the good right now. What are you excited about for the future of Wolfpack Athletics?
I'm excited because we're going to be really good, like on the field, on the court. Next couple of years, boy, we've got some talented athletes, some talented players coming back next couple of years in football and basketball and a number of our sports. I mean, we're sort of we're trending in a really good direction right now in a lot of our sports. And for us, we're an academic institution. Every one of our young men and women on our teams are doing very, very well academically. And in fact, we had over a 3.0 GPA across the board, over 400 student athletes again last semester. And when they go off into the community, our job is to prepare them and teach them to be leaders in our society, leaders in our community, leaders in their business, leaders in their church, if that's important to them, leaders for their family someday, and leaders just in our community. And
Doug, we go way back, and I'm interested to know, from the perspective of the Reno Sparks Chamber of Commerce, how can we best support UNR Athletics? What is it we can do?
I love that question, Ann. Anytime I get a chance to work with Ann, I will do whatever it takes to partner with Ann and her group. They do such a fabulous job. Well, the big thing for us, as I said before, is coming to games. Like, I think that's really an important sort of baseline is for the business community to come check us out. And then the second thing is sort of a step up, right? Is I think businesses can really lean on us to do more partner and client relations, right? And again, affordable, inexpensive way to do that is to have a tailgate where a company can host a tailgate and have some food and some snacks and invite all of their customers and clients to come to the game, invite their staff and their families to all come to the game. And it's like you have this client relations activity before the game, and you're networking and communicating and connecting with people. And then everyone goes to the game and cheers for the Pack. Like, how does it get any better than that? I don't know. That's a great question. Thank you, Ann.
You're welcome. We've done some great things for our members, and we appreciate that. We've had those tailgate parties, and we've had seats at games. And I think in the fall, when we celebrated our 100th anniversary, you had us down on the field, and that was great recognition. And we got a real kick out of that, and so did our members. So thank you.
Absolutely.
So, Ann, to Doug's point, how important do you believe it is for the business community to support Wolfpack Athletics?
You know, I think it's huge. I mean, we've talked about sports as a unifying activity, and I think businesses can be pretty insulated and think just about themselves and their bottom line and their shareholders and their customers. But when there's something bigger out there like sports and spirit, it does so much for businesses, as Doug has mentioned, to take clients to games, to talk about the Wolfpack, to bring people to this community and show them this great university and show them the sports facilities, which are just exceptional. And to have someone like Doug commandeering this whole effort, someone who's so personable, someone who does talk about students as more than just athletes, but scholars and people who will graduate and go on to careers, you know, that resonates with the business community. And that's so important to tie those two together. So I think we're inextricably linked between business and sports.
And we're going to talk about those similarities a little bit later in the conversation.
Great.
I have one question for both of you regarding statewide matters. Obviously, a lot of our viewers for the comeback are from Southern Nevada as well. So, Doug, first off for you, how important is the rivalry with UNLV?
It's everything. I mean, gosh, rivalries anywhere in any state is amazing. I mean, you think about Florida State, or Texas, Oklahoma. I tell our fans all the time, like when we play UNLV, it's the best game of the year. It doesn't matter what sport it is. It's the best game of the year. It could be the swim team or the football team or the tennis team or the baseball. It doesn't matter. It's the best game of the year because it pulls our state together, and we're all focused on the two great universities. It's something that unifies us, and it brings us together and reminds us again that we're all Nevadans, whether you cheer for red or you cheer for blue, win or lose. We all come together about what's higher education and why it's important to our state.
And, you know, Doug just talked about it on the court, on the field, in the pool. Really, when you look at it in business, it's almost the same. It's very easy for us to talk about the two markets. How important is it that Nevada businesses come together to be one team?
Well, certainly now more than ever. And, you know, I'm on the phone every day with one or more chambers around the state. And I think we're all feeling that this is a unifying time, not just on a sports field, but for us to pull together as Nevadans. We have the highest unemployment rate right now in the country. There's so many things we need to do to work together. And to Doug's point, the two universities may have a rivalry over a canon, but I think it's about education in this state. I think it's about making sure that we're producing the best and brightest students who go on to form the pipeline of our future workforce and become the talent that's inherent in this state and do great things for this state. So we're a very spread out state, but population-wise, we're not very big. And it's time to recognize that we're all in this together and that it matters what happens in Las Vegas and in Reno and in the rural communities. Nothing separates us as Nevadans.
You two have me fired up for the state of Nevada right now. I love it.
Yeah.
We're going to finish our conversation talking about the comeback itself and some of the parallels between sports and business and what we learn through having to fight through and have our own comebacks. But right now we're calling it timeout. I just ask you 5 very simple questions, and we get to know a little bit more about you, the person. Not the leader, not the title, but the person. First question. We'll start with Doug and then Ann. Your favorite meal would consist of what?
Wow. Breakfast or lunch or dinner? Which one? Or like
any one that you want, and then what's going to make up that particular meal?
My favorite meal, and it's everywhere I go, I order the same thing. It's kind of obnoxious. People think I'm really boring, but it's because there's nuance in the meal, right? Chicken Parmesan, just, if done correctly, it melts in your mouth, and it's just my favorite meal by far. And almost every restaurant, if they have it on the menu, I order it because I want to know who has the best chicken Parmesan anywhere I've ever been. So,
But okay, chicken parm for Doug. Ann.
I'm listening to Doug and I'm thinking about what I can order anywhere, and it always tastes the same. I would say it's a Starbucks caramel macchiato decaf, and that's a great meal for me.
Iced or hot?
Yeah, extra hot.
Extra hot.
Decaf for sure. But I know what it's going to taste like. I can go anywhere in the United States, probably the world, order it, and it will be great, and it will just melt in my mouth, much like chicken Parmesan.
Question number 2. First sporting event you remember attending?
First sporting event, that's, other than my own sporting event, for the first professional sporting event was probably the most memorable. It was probably the U.S. Open when I was a kid. I grew up right outside of New York City, and every summer we'd go down to watch the U.S. Open.
And Doug, you played tennis in college, correct?
I did, yeah.
That's great. And first big sporting event you remember attending?
Well, first of all, I never knew Doug was from back east, but I remember those days where there was no security and you could walk, and it was the site of the old World's Fair grounds, and great tennis. I think I remember a Knicks game at Madison Square Garden with my dad and brothers.
Third question. 3 of your favorite movies ever?
I don't like these kind of questions.
Oh my gosh.
You talk about student athletes all day long, but we talk about yourself. You don't want to do it.
Not really.
Who's seen a movie? Yeah.
Yeah, my movies go back far. Like, I loved the Indiana Jones series. Like,
right.
I'm a huge fan of anything Harrison Ford, but Indiana Jones when I was probably younger. I think the other one more recently, sort of my adult movie series, is Oceans. The Oceans, 11,
right.
12 or 13. I don't know what the numbers are, but my favorite movie, and this is weird because it's totally different than those other movies. And I don't know why, but I watched it like 100 times probably. It's The Princess Bride. Isn't that a funny movie?
Doug.
Yes.
I know, isn't it weird?
All right, Ann, let's hear from you.
All right, I got to think about this, but a movie that not many people know or maybe remember, but Terms of Endearment with Deborah Winger and Shirley MacLaine, greatest mother-daughter movie I think ever made. I think A League of Our Own. I love that line. There's no crying in baseball. I use that all the time at work. Greatest line. And then I think maybe not a movie, but a documentary. Just finished watching The Last Dance. Found that fascinating. And I miss movies. I miss most of all going to a movie theater. Can't wait to go back.
Right. It was the Last Dance was just so fascinating. When it came out, obviously there was no sports, and just how it captivated people. And a lot of people had a lot of different takes about it.
Oh, sure.
But there was a lot on human nature for sure that we were able to learn from that.
Absolutely.
Fourth question. Favorite vacation destination?
That's easy for me. And this is not, I don't know if this even qualifies. I have to apologize maybe. My favorite vacation spot is my parents' home in Connecticut. And I grew up on this, it's almost like summer camp. That's the best way. I grew up on this lake, this beautiful freshwater lake, and it's just amazing to me. I love, the beaches, going to Hawaii or whatever, that's amazing too. It's just, I love every vacation. You kidding me? There's no bad vacation.
But mom and dad's house, especially if there's chicken parm and Princess Bride on VHS, life is good, right?
VHS.
And
well, it would be, first of all, I love Lake Tahoe. And given the fact it's 25 minutes up the road, I don't know if it counts as a vacation destination, but it sure is easy to get to. I think, though, my favorite place is Boca Raton, Florida. Feel sand under my feet and ocean waves, nothing like it.
Last question during the timeout. What's the most important leadership advice you've ever been given?
Best leadership advice, and I got it from a dear friend of mine here in Reno. And he tells me this almost every time we talk. It's a constant reminder that great leadership is exhausting. Great leaders pour themselves into others all day long. And the energy and the enthusiasm and the positivity just has to emanate from great leaders. And at the end of the day, you're just wiped.
Thanks for sharing that. You just made me better. Ann, best business advice you've ever received?
I'm exhausted listening to that answer. I would say that the best advice I ever got was to talk less and listen more. I think when you get to be a leader, you think you have the answers, or you think you're supposed to have the answers, and you think you're supposed to do most of the talking. And I've learned over a long period of time that if I listen more, actively listen, I hear ideas that are generated by people who work for me or work with me, colleagues. You know, we don't know everything. We're learning every single day. And the way you do that is to listen to people. And so I try to do that a lot.
Right. And that goes back to listening to being a great teammate. That's what being a great leader starts with, is being a great teammate. So now let's finish our conversation here talking about being great teammates, talking about our teams. And we named this series The Comeback for a reason. So Ann, why is this series so important to you and so many business leaders across the state of Nevada?
Well, I think the very fact it's called The Comeback is really what we're trying to do here and now, which is come back. We've had businesses closed and gaming institutions closed, many small businesses closed. And so we're all trying to come back. We're trying to come back in a big way, maybe a better way, a more efficient way. And so the comeback sounds so important from a statewide perspective. How do we come back from the brink of despair, the brink of closures, the brink of an economic downturn? How do we come back even stronger? How do we take the field again with that fighting spirit and make Nevada everything it has always been and should be, even stronger again? So that title really resonates with me.
Both of you talked earlier about the similarities between sports and business. Doug, how similar are successful teams in business with successful teams in sports?
Well, it's the same, right? Great leadership, a plan for the direction you want to go, people who are willing to work hard and stay disciplined on the team, on the plan. All those things are necessary right now. And I think about our student athletes. Ann mentioned this earlier before about graduates of our universities here in the state that will become the workforce of our state. You don't win every day. You don't win every day at practice. You don't win every day in competition. But the key is that you keep going back, you keep fighting back, you keep after it, right? You persevere, and I have no doubt we will. I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about this state. That's what we need right now, is people who are tough, that are willing to stick to the plan, that are willing to work hard, and we all do that. We're going to come out of this thing just fine.
And same question to you, but before you talk about the similarities, you've hinted at it a little bit. Sports has impacted your life. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about your history and tie to sports, and then share with us about the similarities between business and sports.
Well, I come from a very sports-oriented family. As a kid, golf, tennis, basketball, soccer, lacrosse, we did it all. And it's probably no secret that my brother is the commissioner of the National Basketball Association. Right. So when Doug talks about grit and determination, I'm thinking about resiliency and the efforts being made by national sports leagues, whether it's baseball or basketball, football, to make that kind of comeback. To take that grit that we talk about in Nevada and apply it not only from a business and strategic standpoint to getting our economy back online and back on track, but how sports resonate with people all over the country, and the need to see those victories, those defeats, those great athletes get out there and show us what we all wish we could be doing. We're all rooting for our economy. We're rooting for this COVID, to be kicked to the curb. And we, needless to say, need sports to show us that kind of determination and practice and resilience that you see in athletes. There's just no crying in baseball. Get out there and do it. So I think there's a tremendous link between sports and business as we all focus on winning and getting past this time. And we know, as Doug said, that as Nevadans, we're going to make it happen. There's no doubt about it.
Doug, one final sports-oriented question here. What's the mindset that one needs as an individual, as a team, to be able to bounce back, to come back from a large deficit, or to come back from a devastating loss?
Well, it's positivity. I mean, you have to believe in what's possible, right? If you don't believe, if you don't think there's a chance, then you got no chance, right? So it starts there. At least for me, it starts there for me. You have to have positivity. Everyone on your team has to believe in what the hopeful outcome is. For me, when you're down, when you're losing, when you're getting beat up pretty good in a game, you have to believe that you can switch. You can get momentum back, that you can score points or goals or whatever it may be, and that you can fight your way back into it. But you have to believe first.
One last question for both coaches here. What advice or words of encouragement do you have for business leaders in Nevada right now? Doug?
We're in this together. Everyone knows that. I mean, you hear that said about 20 times a day. And I think we just have to keep reminding ourselves that we're here to support each other. We're here to help each other. And if we do that and we remind ourselves that, I think we're going to be great. And I know we will, because again, you said it before, DJ, we've done this dozens or hundreds of times in the state of Nevada where people have counted us out. People thought we couldn't do it. And guess what? We're a great state because we have great people here. And, I think we're going to figure this thing out together, but we have to be together. We have to support each other every day.
Thank you. Coach Silver, take us home.
I think resiliency. I think we're learning that business is like a season of a team. You win some, you lose some, but ultimately you've got your eye on the prize. And I feel right now that our business leaders in the community, our business owners, small, medium, and large businesses all need to have the patience Doug is referring to, because nothing is going to be solved quickly. We're in this together. All the resources are here to help. Certainly among the big business community, there's communication and cooperation and collaboration every single day. And so, yes, this is a season we're going to get through, and we're going to win.
Doug, and thank you not only for being here with us today, but thank you, and not only for what you do for the Reno Sparks market and Northern Nevada, but what you do for the entire state.
Oh, thank you, DJ.
Yeah, thank you, Ann, for everything you do for Northern Nevada. And DJ, thank you for this. As we'd like to say, if I don't mind, go Pack.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of The Comeback. Until next time, remember, business is a team sport, and we're rooting for you. Be great.